must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Very good morning to you, and thank you so much for finding time to being with us today. This is Good Morning Africa. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and as usual, we're coming to you from Kenya's capital here in Nairobi. And if you're new, what we do on the show is we get to look at the latest news in Kenya, particularly by going through the leading newspapers, the Star newspaper, the Standard newspaper, and the Daily Nation. And then I usually have a set of panelists where we get to discuss the pressing issues of the day in the country. So before I bring in my panelists, I'd like to take us through what we have on our headlines this morning. And we start with the Star newspaper. OKA in limbo as Moi and Musalia make fresh plans. ANC Kanu signal they'd go it alone in 2022. Mudavadi eyes running mate from Central as Gideon Ally promises earth-shattering announcement. The story is on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper, and just the main pictorial on the front page of the Star is residents fleeing as bandits grow brazen and soldiers arrive. The recent spate of attacks in Laikipia County. And just up there, Cohen widow protest a death of her dog while under KSPCA care. The story is on page 2, and below that, Raila, I will resign if I fail to deliver. The story is on page 6, and then we'll expose all land Kenyatta's own. The story is on page 7, and that is according to Mathira MP Rigathi Gachagua. All right, very well. And then we turn our attention to the Daily Nation, and the main headline: Inside CBC mock test for grade 5 pilot study. The new competency-based curriculum CBC system of education comes under sharp scrutiny in a planned mock national assessment for grade 5 learners. The exam will offer a glimpse into how the pupils will move to junior secondary when they sit the actual grade 6 test next year. The story is on page 7 of the Daily Nation, and in the recent days there has been, a sustained is it conversation or argument over CBC? Parents have a lot to complain about. I don't know, I don't have a child that young, but I do have colleagues with children who are undertaking this CBC, and there's always something to talk about. All right. So Ruto's running mate headache. Just who will the DP pick from vote reach Mount Kenya? The story is on page 4. Paying the price for justice blow as CJ Kome reviews court fees upwards. The story is on the back page, and COVID pandemic exposes a costly headache. And so the story is on page 10. And then Nairobi Expressway actually saying it's hiring 36 toll attendants and 2 accountant clerks. So if you're looking for a job and you qualify, please look for the details. Nairobi Expressway is hiring there. And on the Standard newspaper, the main headline: Divorce, Uhuru is stuck with a deputy. Despite trying all tricks in the political book to get Ruto to exit government, the president finds himself in a difficult space and now has to contend with his second in command. And that is where we shall start our conversation this morning. I'm joined by Sharon Gitonga. Sharon, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Miriam, and the entire panelist.
All right, nice to have you. And we're also joined by Daniel Wesonga, our correspondent and investigative journalist from Nairobi. Daniel, good morning.
Yes, very, very good morning, Miriam Ogutu, back at our headquarters. Good morning to Sharon Gitonga and our viewers here in Kenya and the rest of the continent.
Okay, so let's just start our conversation from the headline on the Standard newspaper. And just up there, Mudavadi's firm message to Raila and Ruto, and outcry over cost of feeds and things like that. But the main headline on the Standard, they're saying the story is on page 6 and 7 of the Standard newspaper. So let's find out why President Uhuru Kenyatta is stuck with his DP, even as we all know that this marriage has refused to work. President Uhuru Kenyatta finds himself in a political quagmire, stuck with a belligerent Deputy President William Ruto following the end of their bromance. The bitter fallout between the two leaders has seen allies of the president try all tricks in the political book to have him exit in vain. The attempts began in 2020 when the purge on Ruto allies in the Jubilee Party national organs, including the powerful National Management Committee and the National Executive Council Committee. From then on, Uhuru and Ruto have been involved in a political cat-and-mouse game that culminated in recent call for former asking his deputy to resign from government if he is dissatisfied. The March 9th, 2018 handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga, and now the political upheavals and attempts to clip Ruto's political wings have been awash, and in every instance they have not come to fruition, forcing strategists back to the drawing board. So we've seen that play out sometimes with Songa, and it appears, according to this story, President Uhuru Kenyatta really has no choice, and unless the deputy president decides to resign, something that he said he's not planning on doing. But if he was to do it, it will be at his under his own terms when he will be moving on to UDA.
Yes, thank you so much, Miriam Ogutu. And that takes us back to the conversation about the BBI Constitutional Amendment Bill, which actually would have foreseen such a lacuna in our constitution being rectified. You know, the current constitution does not provide remedies for such situations and many more. You remember before his retirement, the Chief Justice Emeritus, Justice David Kenani Maraga, had written to the president asking him to dissolve parliament for failing to meet the 2/3 gender rule. And you wonder, how is this going to happen? Just currently, IEBC was actually, the court ruled that IEBC was not lawfully constituted to expedite even the by-elections that have been done in the recent past. So, and about that, Miriam, there's no way even the court itself can be able to ensure that those rulings it's giving they are implemented, because our constitution has a lot of loopholes, because our constitution has a lot of lacunas that does not enable governance to take effect quite adequately. And that now also is the same thing that is happening in the leadership, the top cream leadership, that is the presidency. The deputy president has become an errant deputy president, a rogue deputy president. He is ever undermining his boss. He's ever disparaging his projects. And there's nothing the president can do about it, because the constitution ties him on the hip to his deputy. There's no way he can cut him off. And those are the issues that we should look at. I believe if maybe, God willing, the Supreme Court gives a green light to BBI process, I believe that should be among the top issues the BBI should be able to look at. In that, the president can have the leeway to fire and hire a deputy president, because this is not the way to go. Today, we are having the same kind of scenario with the deputy governors in the counties. We find a deputy governor like in Nyeri fighting her boss, and there's nothing the boss can do about it. So that all happens at the detriment of the Mwananchi who is expecting development. When today the deputy president and his troops are actually derailing the Big Four agenda, it is the Kenyan people who are supposed to benefit from the Big Four agenda who are suffering. When the deputy president and his troops are actually shooting down a good report like BBI, it is the citizenry who are bearing the consequences. And therefore, Miriam, I think for our constitution, we need to have some provision which should enable the president to actually fire a rogue deputy president like William Ruto. But all said and done, also, I believe it will have been a matter of principle for Deputy President if he feels that his roles have been taken away, like he said, that Matiang'i and Raila are doing his role. Then out of principle, he should have done what the first Vice President, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, did on the April of 1966 by tendering his resignation. That is what happens in more mature democracies. That is what happens to statesmen and people who are governed by personal principle and not greed. But since William Ruto is not a man with principle, since he says he's on a mission and he has no luxury to surrender, and what the Jubilee Party Secretary General said of him, we know his true colors. I don't think he's going to resign. I think the president and his allies and handlers should look for more ways, maybe perhaps, just to ensure that the deputy president does not encroach his big four legacy projects and make sure that they contain him. But as it is, Miriam, I think we're going to run like this until August of 2022, when we're going to be having elections.
Okay, thank you so much. Sharon, I'm sure this is a conversation you have been following, and it's good you're here today, so I want to hear your thoughts on this. I think the rest of the panelists, this is something that we've been talking about here almost every day, because there's always something to talk about in line with the acrimonious relationship between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, and rightfully so. Daniel has reminded us something. He said a few days ago, the DP, when he was responding to the calls by President to, if you're not feeling comfortable in this government, you're free to resign. That will be an honorable thing to say. And the deputy president said in a rebuttal that he does not have the luxury to resign. He is on a mission. So what kind of mission do you think the deputy president is on, and for him to stick on to something that he does not even support? Sharon? Okay, then I'll move on to Javan. Javan, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Miriam. Yeah, nice to be on the show. This good morning.
Nice to have you. So we're having the conversation, and according to the Standard newspaper this morning, President Uhuru Kenyatta is stuck with his deputy president, whether he likes it or not. And the DP a couple of days ago said he does not have the luxury to resign. Instead, he said he is on a mission. What kind of a mission is this that the DP, you think, has impact on, that he's refusing to leave a house that is no longer comfortable for him to stay in?
Yeah, I think expecting the deputy president to resign is expecting too much. That is not the nature of a deputy president. That is not the character. He is not man of that type, because he will keep fighting from Jubilee party, whereas he has a UDA party, which he feels like is the best party to take this country to usher in prosperity when he gets to State House. Therefore, this speaks a lot to the character of a deputy president. He is a man, he is not made of that fabric where he can resign or just leave office when he feels things are not comfortable. He is the type of wife who will continue complaining that the husband is not doing good, the husband is not treating her well, the husband is not treating the children in the right manner, but he will insist on staying on the same marriage. Therefore, it is high time as a people, we forget about the deputy president resign. What maybe we can think is forcing him to resign or in an impeachment. I think that is the option that we have. And I think the mission that the deputy president has is to remain in Jubilee and to act as an irritant, to continue irritating the president and the Jubilee supporters from within. He wants to stir things. He wants to bring confusion when he is still inside, because when he goes outside, it might be an uphill task to disorganize the Jubilee party. Therefore, that is why I feel like he insists on remaining on Jubilee party, because he is on a mission to ensure that Jubilee party fails, Jubilee party cripples, and the Jubilee party will not be relevant anymore. I think that is the mission that the deputy president has. But this other mission of uplifting the hustlers and taking this country to prosperity, that is just a political tone that will be used by any other politician, because deputy president has been in politics for almost 30 years. If we had anything good to do for this country, he could have done then. If we had an issue with to uplift the hustlers. He could have done when he was the Minister of Agriculture, Higher Education, when he as the Deputy President. But there's nothing to show that the really Deputy President is on a mission to take this country or to uplift the livelihoods of the people he called hustle. I think the mission is to disorganize the Jubilee, to disorganize the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta when he is still part of the government, to do it from inside the government. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So, of course, yesterday we saw the DP revisit the explosive BBI letter to Uhuru Kenyatta that was written by Kangata. And I see the story is on page 9 of the Standard newspaper. And I just read a bit of what DP said yesterday when he was meeting leaders from, I think, Muranga in his residence. The DP recalled the letter brought him, that is Kangata, a lot of problems, but that is the test of a true leader. A leader has to speak the truth. Daniel, DP is saying a leader has to speak the truth. A true test of a leader is a leader who can stand up and be honest and speak the truth. Would you, compare that to how we know the DP today?
You know, Miriam, one thing about William Ruto is that he is very ironical. You know, I've never known a man who is very, very skewed like William Ruto. There's nothing straight about William Ruto, not even his fingers, Miriam. You know, this is a pathological liar who has lied to Kenyans since 1987 when he joined politics. He has been lying himself through winning the political seats through deceit and conmanship. And today, you know, when you try and reflect back on whatever agenda he promised the people of Kenya in 2013, 2017, then you will actually realize on how the people are actually duped by these smooth-speaking deputy president. And I believe even when today people seeing the hustler narrative, they have to remember yesterday the former prime minister shared something very, very vital about the promises that the deputy president made to the people of Kenya in 2013, 2017. He says that he had promised the people of Kenya digital jobs. He had talked about making sure that every ward has some internet access so that people can work online. He had promised the people of Kenya a double-digit economy, only for him now to come in 2020 to 2021 to talk about kazi ni kazi, you know, just telling them people abrasively that you can continue doing whatever you do because kazi ni kazi, and saying that now you are a hustler, you are the low cadre in the society and all that. I believe that is the greatest conmanship. I believe that is a scam to the people of Kenya. And when William Ruto talks about people talking truth, I think it is high time he should look in the mirror and say that again loud and clear.
All right, thank you so much. Sharon, I don't know if you're still there. If you're there, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Miriam. My apologies. I've been having a technical hitch from my end.
Okay.
I'm really sorry about that.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I think my 2 cents from the conversation that is ongoing is I can clearly state out poor leadership from the DPR. And just like my fellow panelists have said, he's on a mission to disorient the country. Yeah, so I think poor leadership is I would say that's my 2 cents for this conversation. Yeah.
All right, very well. Thank you so much, Jevan Karanja. What do you make of that? Sharon is saying in the person of DP, he's exhibiting traits of a very poor leader. But yesterday he was lauding Kangata for the letter he wrote to President Uhuru Kenyatta in December, and he said that a true test of a leader is a leader who can speak the truth. Truth and deputy president, how do you know them to relate?
Miriam, these are when we are doing chemistry in high school, there's some substance that they could not, if you mix them, we said that they were not soluble. They cannot give a mixture. And this is a kind of the deputy president. It's like mixing water and oil. That is deputy president. When I relate him with the truth, they cannot read from the same script. They cannot sit in the same room. Because the deputy president has been going around the country saying how President Uhuru Kenyatta has failed to deliver on the agenda that Jubilee Party had. But on the same note, he goes to other places, like when he was in Nairobi, in Kieni last Sunday, he was reminding the people of Kieni how the Jubilee government has been able to transform the livelihoods of the people of this country, and how the Jubilee government has a very clean track record when it comes to infrastructural development. Therefore, this is a man who he is a master of double speak. Therefore, there's a times that he chooses to lie, and there's time he chooses to speak the truth. Therefore, when he goes around to applaud the senator of Murang'a for saying the truth, I don't know whether it was truth or just like any other hearsay information, but Irungu Kang'ata and his letter, there was nothing substantial, because the research that Kang'ata purported to conduct was not scientific. He didn't tell us the quantitative samples that he derived his conclusion that BBI was not popular in Mount Kenya region. Therefore, at the end of the day, the deputy president is a master of, he is a hype master. He knows how to hype the emotions. He knows how to entertain a crowd. And that is what he was doing to the people of Kakatanga yesterday, when he was trying to remind them how Kang'ata has been a good leader. And he went ahead to endorse a senator for Murang'a, Irungu Kang'ata, to be the next governor of Murang'a. And I'm wondering, as a Kenyan, as a man who has been following the deputy president, every time he goes to a podium, he talks of, I will form the next government, tutaunda serikali ya mama bogas and the boda guys and everybody else. But the people he is endorsing for various positions across the country, these guys are not mama bogas. These guys are rich people. These guys have been leadership for years. Therefore, he doesn't mean what he speaks. Deputy President does not walk the talk of what he believes in. That is why he speaks of forming a government with the mama bogas, but he goes ahead to endorse rich people, to endorse people who are not nearer to be mama bogas or to be near the lower earning, the low people in the society. Therefore, I think Deputy President and truth in the same sentence, Miriam, that will be too much. That will be maybe being dishonest from my side. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So now let's move on to another person who is issuing some warnings now. And Mudavadi is saying, I'm not a pushover. He wants rivals of the 2022 poll. The story is on page 9 on the Standard newspaper. ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi says his 2022 presidential quest is unstoppable. The former vice president, he said he was ready to face other hopefuls, including Deputy President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga at the ballot. My presidential bid has no reverse gear. I have experience and the ticket for my party to vie for the presidency. Anything short of that is not within my making. We have supported others in previous elections, and time has come for us to captain the ship, said Mudavadi. And I know perhaps what you all will say, but have we perhaps been underestimating Mudavadi? He's saying he will soldier on and his name will be at the ballot paper. You think he means it? And will his name be on the ballot? Daniel?
Yeah, thank you, Miriam Mogutu. And what I'll say to Mudavadi is that he has the right to vie and lose. When you look at Musalia, he does not have that particular solid constituency where he could rally behind and go out there and be able to bargain with other regions to support his presidential bid. And all said and done, Miriam, the politics here in Kenya are all local. This is not like America, where you'll go out there and sell your political agenda and actually be able to sway various states to rally behind your presidential bid. You need to have a backing. And speaking like someone who comes from Western Kenya, someone who has campaigned in Western Kenya and understands the geopolitical structures of Western Kenya, I will say without any fear of doubt that Musalia Mudavadi could perform dismally in 2022 if he was to contest than he performed in 2013. And yesterday I saw him mentioning that he's gonna pick his deputy from Mount Kenya region. That is not something new. In 2013, he picked Jeremiah Kioni, and story has it in the corridors that even Jeremiah Kioni did not vote for him. So to me, I think these are an individual just like Moses Wetangula and Kalonzo Musyoka, who have been maintaining political relevance by threatening to vie for presidency. And I think we should not take him seriously, because what I know, in 2022, we're not going to be having a third force. We're not going to be having someone to initiate a runoff. Rather, we're going to be having a two-race horse. And as it is right now, Miriam, the race is between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. Any other person coming on board is just a flower girl, I will call it so. So what I will really want to maybe tell Musalia Mudavadi and his supporters, if they are really serious about running in 2022, then they should find a formidable candidate, either William Ruto or Raila Odinga, whoever they choose. That is their democratic right to rally behind them, and therefore they'll be having chances. But if he's going to run alone, then he should be rest assured that he's headed into political cold and oblivion. I submit.
All right, Daniel. But you must not have heard what Mudavadi said. He said he understands and he's willing and he will be running against Raila and against Ruto. So he has no intentions of joining any of those camps. And he says his presidential bid has no reverse gear. Sharon Gitonga, what do you make of this?
He'll get his 300,000 votes and go home with it in Mululu.
All right. Sharon, what's your thoughts?
Wow, I think for me, I don't know. I'm really waiting for him to mention his running mate, yeah, because I find it so ironic.
Will that make any difference when he mentions his running mate? Will that make any difference in his numbers?
Because if he's the same Kioni, and it turns out that the same person who you're entrusting to be your running mate, then the person doesn't vote for you. So I don't know what kind of I don't know.
But I doubt he'll be going for Jeremiah again. But Jeevan Karanja, Musalia is saying his bid for president, being a president of this country, has no reverse gear. And Daniel already presented him with some options, and Musalia said, "I'm really not interested. I'm running against those people."
Thank you very much for that question. And I think nobody is underrating the former vice president, because the numbers don't lie. You know, in politics, the political currency is your numerical strength. Therefore, at the end of the day, you cannot be relevant politically if you don't have some political strength. You cannot be politically relevant if you don't have the numerical strength. And to this case, the former vice president, since 2002, he has been working to unite the Mlembe nation. He has been working to bring the Luhya community together, something that has failed terribly. Therefore, if he thinks that he can be the president, that anybody has a right to dream. Anybody has a right to run for presidency, provided you meet the constitutional threshold. But the numbers, that is very important, because you need 50+1, and you need to get at least 25% of all the total vote casted across 24 counties in this country. I don't think Musalia Mudavadi will get that. And in 2013, as Daniel has said, he was on the ballot running for the presidency, and his running mate was Jeremiah Kioni, the member of parliament for Daragwa constituency. And Miriam, they failed, and they were beaten to submission by President Uhuru Kenyatta and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Therefore, we have tested Musalia Mudavadi. We know his capability, we know his possibilities, and we know what he can do. But that of presidency, unless somebody, the two front runners, that is former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto, maybe they happen to support them and say Musalia Tosha. I think that is when he can redeem himself politically and get some relevance, especially if the former Prime Minister says Musalia Tosha. I think that is the time he can talk of maybe being a front runner. But as things stands now, Miriam, these are people who have a problem. They are on One Kenya Alliance. They are still fighting on who will be the flag bearer. We have Kalonzo Musyoka, we have Gideon Moi, we have Wetangula, we have Mudavadi. They have not settled their problem in their house. Now Musalia Mudavadi thinks he is the best candidate. Kalonzo Musyoka from the same camp thinks he is the best person to take this country to the next level. Therefore, we be expecting a lot of this issue coming to play as we head to 2022 general election. But for Musalia Mudavadi, I would say that he will have to wait for another 5 years in political code if he does not play his cards well. And I think this time round, he has an option because the former prime minister has come out clearly that he'll be on the ballot. And from the signs that now it is a two-horse race between the deputy president and former prime minister, I think he should continue giving his support. If I was the one who was advising the Musalia Mudavadi, I could advise him to support the former Prime Minister Odinga, and if former Prime Minister clinches the presidency, then he will have a soft landing in 2027 or in 2032, maybe to clinch the presidency of this country. But in 2022, his chances are so slim, his chances are thin, and I think he needs to strategize and maybe go for a governorship position in Vihiga or in Kakamega. Thank you.
All right.
Yes,
you.
Miriam,
yes.
and just a rejoinder to that.
Go ahead.
You know, when Musalia says that he's gonna pick a running mate from Mount Kenya, we already know the composition of One Kenya Alliance. He has Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, Gideon Moi, Moses Wetangula. So when he says that he's going to go fish for a running mate in Mount Kenya region, what that technically means is that One Kenya Alliance is no longer tenable. Because if you're going to fish for a running mate outside your coalition, what happens to the fellow coalition partners? I thought it would have been if Musalia Mudavadi is running for president, then he gets maybe Gideon Moi or even Kalonzo Musyoka or Moses Wetangula as his running mate. So that technically means that One Kenya Alliance is no more. And when you read the Star newspaper today, you saw they're already having some very, very rough waters. Gideon Moi is meant to make an announcement on Friday. So we can as well say to that statement, we can maybe allude that One Kenya Alliance is already dead on arrival.
All right. And speaking of which, now that you brought it, the Star newspaper, the main headline, OKA in limbo as Moi and Musalia make fresh plans. The story is on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. Let's just find out what they're up to now. The political future of the fledgling One Kenya Alliance seems uncertain as its bosses pull in different directions. It has emerged that the collapsed Building Bridges initiative could have fundamentally bolstered plans by the big boys to craft a broad-based alliance. ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi yesterday said he could pick his 2022 running mate from Mount Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta's backyard. The announcement raised the question of what positions his OKA members would hold were he to be picked the alliance's flag bearer. The OKA principals are Mudavadi, Kanu's Gideon Moi, Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka, and Moses Wetangula of Fort Kenya. It has also emerged that Gideon could have changed his mind about backing someone else for the presidency. Speculation is rife that Gideon could go all the way to the ballot to compete with the Deputy President William Ruto for the heart and soul of Rift Valley. At the burial of his father, President Daniel Moi, in February last year, Gideon was handed his rungu, popularly known as Fimbo Nyayo. The handover by the Kalenjin elders was seen as a political statement that Gideon was the community's new leader. But all right, so that is the latest in the One Kenya Alliance there. So they had said that to give them time until October. And I remember we had a light conversation about it, and we said, well, OKA survive until October, so that they're able to pick up, their presidential candidate. But with this new developments, what do you think? What does the future of One Kenya Alliance look like, Sharon?
Sorry, Miriam, for that, kindly allow me to follow as I...
Okay, sawa. Thank you so much. All right, no problem. Jevan Karanja, can you predict the future of One Kenya Alliance in the next 2 months?
Yeah, thank you, Miriam. Even not in the next 2 months. Within this week, Miriam, from the reliable sources, Gideon Moi is expected to make a major announcement, maybe from today to Friday. And I think he is preparing the ground that he'll be running for presidency, because I saw his right-hand man, William Kamket, yesterday saying that the risk that Gideon Moi can take now, he is a national leader, he will go on the ballot and iron things out with other men in the ballot. And therefore, I expect a lot to happen. Musalia Mudavadi has said it very clearly that he is hoping to get a running mate from Mount Kenya region. And I think Musalia Mudavadi getting a running mate from Mount Kenya region will not change anything. Because if you are the presidential candidate, you must bring some substantial numbers on the table so that you can have bargaining power. Therefore, Mudavadi is bargaining with zero numbers, expecting to get the 6 million votes from Mount Kenya region to his side just because people will have mercy on him. That doesn't happen in politics. You must show, you must stand, you must fight for your space, and you must bring something on the table. Last general election, as running mate, because he had some numbers that he was bringing on table. On the case of NASA, they had Kalonzo Musyoka because of his numerical strength. That is why they could not pick Musalia Mudavadi in 2017, because he does not have the numbers. Because when you talk of Western Kenya, Raila Odinga can go without the blessings of Musalia Mudavadi and get some votes. When you look at the members of parliament, governors, we have governors of ODM in Western Kenya. We have senators, we have members of parliament elected at the ODM party in Western Kenya, where Musalia Mudavadi purposed to be the spokesperson, purposed to be the man to call the tune. Therefore, I think Musalia Mudavadi on that, he is heading to a political oblivion. On the issue of One Kenya Alliance, I think this One Kenya Alliance, it was just a formation for people who are unsatisfied with how the NASA coalition was doing their business. And these people who wanted to show that because of the political dominance of ODM party and the huge shares that they were getting from the revenue sharing and so the finances sharing, I think that is why they were trying to form a group to show the world, to show the ODM that and we can also do our things in our own way without relying on you. But the reality is hitting them hard that the NASA and the One Kenya Alliance, without the ODM party or without another major party in their camp, they cannot even try to think of running for presidency because they will be humiliated. Therefore, the future of One Kenya Alliance, they have no future. And even when they are coming to sit down, they had no future. They had no plan. These people, they just came to show some kind of political message that we can stand on our own. But that was just to portray something that maybe they didn't achieve at the end of the day. Therefore, One Kenya Alliance was gone before it was formed, because these people, they have held almost 10 meetings, Miriam, and I can tell you for sure, every meeting they had was to discuss when they will have the next meeting. They have been drinking teas around the country, and there's nothing substantial. They were in Naivasha. They didn't even settle on anything. They came out to say they will be on the ballot. Who will be on the ballot? And you are four of you. Therefore, these people, they had nothing to bring them together. They have no middle ground. They have nothing in common. Therefore, these people, I think One Kenya Alliance is gone, and I think everyone on the camp will be seeking their individual routes towards State House.
All right, thank you so much. But they seem to have had one thing in common a few months ago when they came together and showed the willingness to work together when they orchestrated the demise of NASA. But outside of that, they don't seem to have a better idea that can work as compared to when they were in NASA. So, OKA, the main intention, Daniel, now looking at things, would you say perhaps they have already met the objective, and that was to destroy NASA, and now they don't know what else to do with themselves together?
Thank you, Miriam. And first of all, you are very right. One Kenya Alliance had no any other agenda other than the willingness to work together. And in fact, anytime they met, the only message they gave Kenyans was on when they are going to have their next meeting. About them leaving NASA, you have to understand that these are people who have been living under the shadow of Raila Odinga, riding on his popularity and enjoying the benefit that's come with it. And you have seen the moment they stepped out of Raila's shadow, they have all become irrelevant. They cannot even be able to marshal enough numbers for a rally here in Nairobi or maybe in their backyards. You know, One Kenya Alliance, these are lazy individuals who have been waiting for an endorsement. These are people who have been sitting, just waiting for a call, maybe from State House or maybe Raila Odinga, to tell them, one of them, that we're going to be perhaps endorsing you. But saying that they could have something substantial, then it will be like expecting water to come out of a stone. So to me, I think, Miriam, One Kenya Alliance has been in ICU for quite some time. And the current talk from Musalia Mudavadi and Gideon Moi of going separate ways is just digest to an already dead outfit. And I believe on Friday, when Gideon Moi will make his announcement, final eulogy will be read to One Kenya Alliance, because Gideon Moi has been the greatest financier. That is what people have not been told. And that is why the moment Gideon Moi has gone silent on One Kenya Alliance, then nothing has been forthcoming from that particular area. Also, now I'll look at his candidature in perspective. Miriam, you have to understand that of all the principles in One Kenya Alliance, only Gideon Moi has the capability and the financial muscle to run a presidential campaign. Musalia Mudavadi tried in 2013, but he didn't have enough resources to reach every corner of the country. But Gideon Moi, I believe, being the son of the former president of 24 years of this country, he might have the enough resources, he might have the enough connections, networks rather, to do presidential campaigns and actually have some chances. But as it is right now, he do not have a constituency, just like Musalia and Wetangula. But as it is with the Kenyan politics, especially the presidential politics, we've never had a president who, apart from Moi and Kenyatta, who has run for presidency on the first time and been able to win that particular seat. Mwai Kibaki tried and lost. Charity Ngilu tried and lost. Mwai Kibaki tried and lost. Uhuru Kenyatta tried and lost. And therefore, even William Ruto should know that in Kenya, being a president for the first time on your first attempt is just not a walk in the park. You must at least try it and fail before you can be able to ascend to power. So Gideon Moi, I believe, when he says that he's going to run for presidency, I believe he has the ability to go all the way to the ballot. Although he might not win, he might get a vote maybe even below 500,000. But he wants to try, first of all, before maybe he gives it a final stab in 2007. But as it is right now, like I said earlier on, the race is a two-horse race between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. The rest of these other people are just there for shenanigans. And even Musalia, as he hypes his campaign, we know who he is, and Raila Odinga will go ahead to defeat him in his own county of Vihiga. I submit, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. And also, as the Star has reminded us what happened last year during the burial of the late President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, the father of Gideon Moi, who was handed over the Moi's rungu as a sign of leadership, has now been bestowed. He was given the baton. And so the Star is saying this could be a factor that might make Moi to want to go all the way to the ballot next year. But back to OKA, Javan, they have not even formalized this union. So were they really serious? Because we know in NASA, I think it's after ODM also announced that they're leaving NASA that they hurriedly went ahead and completed that. Before then, they were just threatening, but they had not actually formalized the exit from NASA. And now they have not formalized this union. So basically, the alliance is not on paper. It's not legal.
Yeah, the alliance was just to portray a picture that we can do our things in our own way, and we don't really depend on ODM. And number two was to ensure that they cripple and destroy the NASA coalition, because they felt like the ODM party was dominating almost in all sectors of that coalition. When you go to parliament, when you look to the position of the minority party, the ODM was getting the lion's share. Therefore, they thought it was wise to portray a picture that, maybe we can do our own things. But I think the coming together of these three principles was not about the future of this country, was not about going for the election as a joint team, was just to ensure that, maybe they can do something to ensure that the NASA coalition dies, so that when they go to a new coalition, when they happen to sit down with the ODM party again for 2022 general election, they'll have new arrangements, they'll have new objectives, and the demands will be different. I think they were laying ground for new partnership and for new demands, because if they continued with the NASA, I think they could have worked on the old promises, on the old agenda or the memorandum that they had when they came together in 2017. But now, if they happen to go for any coalition, especially maybe for ODM or for UDA party, they'll sit down and they'll have new arrangements, and maybe they'll have a bargaining power, and they might demand more. I think that are some of the reasons they felt it was wise to go and maybe have this NASA or One Kenya Alliance. But it was not for the bigger picture of them going for a ballot individually, because they know they have their political devices. They know very well. Kalonzo Musyoka have tried this presidential election and he got nearly 800,000 votes. Mudavadi has tried. The only people who have not tried running for presidency is Gideon Moi and Moses Wetangula. Therefore, we have tested them and we know what they can and what they can achieve in a presidential race. Therefore, they know very well they cannot win unless they have the blessings of the state and they have some big politicians endorsing them for this seat. And that is what they were expecting. Maybe they thought maybe Raila Odinga will not be on the ballot and he might endorse them. And the kind of good, the kind of prestigious ground that BBA was bringing on board, they thought if they stick together, maybe they could have gotten someone who could have promised them these various positions, like the Prime Minister. Now, without the BBI, and without the blessings of maybe the former Prime Minister, that is why you find all this confusion. Now everyone wants to go to the ballot, so maybe they can get to maybe the opposition leaders in future, and they can maybe grow their support from that point. That is why they feel like they need to go on the ballot. Therefore, there's nothing that was bringing them together for the future of this country. They had no goal for this country, for future of this country, or running for presidency. It was just a kind of formality to break NASA and maybe to portray to the world that we are still here. You can still look for us. We have not gone anywhere. But I think the only person who I think has some chances and maybe who can run a very serious presidential campaign is Gideon Moi. We have seen how he does his meetings. When Gideon Moi can attract huge crowds across the country compared to Musalia Mudavadi or Kalonzo Musyoka. Look, when Gideon Moi goes to Narok, when he goes to Meru, he will attract a huge crowds compared to these other guys. And his meetings are well organized. And because of he is so flamboyant and vibrant, and he has some kind of figure, he is kind of a command that he brings on board, I think, and he has the financial powers. I think if he happens to go for the presidential candidate, he will give other presidential aspirants, former Prime Minister William Ruto, a run for their money, because he might do things differently. And we might be surprised him getting some huge votes across the country, because this is a man who is known, he has no corruption cases, he is a very soft-spoken man, and he commands, he has a figure of a leader. I think let's try Gideon Moi this time round, and I think he will do better than Kalonzo Musyoka and Musalia Mudavadi from what they done previously when they ran for presidency at the individual capacity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. As we conclude this morning, the One Kenya Alliance, from what we've seen and the recent developments, would you say they're serious about running for the, the leadership position, the top seat of this country? Are they serious about taking over?
Miriam, the seriousness of One Kenya Alliance has to come with their numbers. You cannot be serious here in Kenya with the presidency if you don't have people to elect you. You will just end up like Mwalimu Abdu Badida, my good English teacher in high school, or maybe Jeff Kaluyu, the good friend to Dr. Masanga. Because in Kenya, all politics are local. And if you do not have people from your backyard backing your presidential bid, then your race is as good as nothing. So to me, I think for One Kenya Alliance, even if they were to marshal all their forces, if they were to come together, all the 3 or the 4 of them, I believe the much they can get across the country is something less than 1.5 million votes, which might not take them to State House, let alone even giving them the bargaining power to form a coalition with whoever will have become number 1 in that particular election. So to me, I think One Kenya Alliance is below even the threshold of being discussed in a national television. I believe there are a bunch of jokers which should not, who should not be given much time and emphasis. But we should look at the main players. As at now, I believe it is only Raila Odinga who has been churning out whatever agenda that he has for the country. He has been talking about his economic plan for the people of Kenya. The other side, the Tanga side, has been just playing optics, telling about a bottom-up approach without explaining what this bottom-up economic model actually entails. So to me, those are the two contenders, and those are the only people who can run a presidential campaign. Unless something happens between now and next year, I don't think One Kenya Alliance has the chance.
Okay, thank you so much. And that is a conversation we shall continue to have. Raila says, I will resign if I fail to deliver. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has vowed to resign if he fails to deliver on his promises to better the lives of the country's youths in what confirms he will be on the ballot in the August 2022 presidential election. The ODM leader on Tuesday said he has the remedy to the ills bedeviling the youths in Kenya. And should it fail to work, he will pave way for another leader. I think by right now, we cannot keep speculating whether Raila will be running or not. We know he will be on the ballot next year. I think now it's pretty obvious, Jevan, isn't it?
Yeah, it is an open secret that the former Prime Minister will be on the ballot. I have seen him around the country, especially in the Mount Kenya region. Because this is the only region, Miriam, the former Prime Minister, has not been able to get substantial votes. Therefore, he is willing to come to this region and do everything that it takes to ensure that he gets a good number. And the former Prime Minister is not looking to get all the votes, or 50%. No, he is looking to get at least 30 to 40%. And I can guarantee you, if he does and he plays his cards well, he'll get that. And that will mean he'll directly be in State House early in the morning. I think because across the country, the former Prime Minister can command a huge following. But in Mount Kenya region, that is where he has been having a problem, necessarily because our candidate, a Mount Kenya candidate, was in the ballot. In case of 2007, 2013, and 2017, we had people from Mount Kenya region running for the presidency. Now, because this time round, we might not be having a serious contestant at the presidential ballot, I think the former Prime Minister will get some good votes from this region, and he should continue doing that. Therefore, anybody who thinks that the former Prime Minister will not be on the ballot, I think they have not been following the Kenyan politics for late. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Daniel, lakini tumemaliza, but he's saying, if I fail to deliver on my promises on the youth, then I will resign. All right, I think Daniel has left the conversation. Nevertheless, thank you so much. Thank you, Daniel Wesonga, Jevan Karanja, and Sharon Gitonga. This has been Good Morning Africa. We'll take a short break, and we shall come back with the editor's memo, where Dr. Matanga shall be leading us in that conversation. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Good morning.